喂，喂，你好啊。You're gonna have to give me a minute on this because looking around trying to get things all together. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. You're gonna have to learn patience. You're gonna have to understand that time is the God of all of us. How do you deal with the time you have available? Do you wait? Do you say, why does he keep me waiting? Why does he do this to me? How many lumps would you like? Ooh, 3 or 4? Peter Puma. And you think about how it is you stick around. Am I hypnotizing you? I've never taken a class in it. However, I have it written down right here. A hypnotic prophecy. A hypnotic prophecy. There was a time when I was in the Army that I had to go to Myrtle Beach for some reason or another. And I was driving through with Doc Johnson, and I saw something in the parking lot in the motel we were staying in. And I said, ooh, look at that. And he said, what? And I said, sit here. I parked the car, jumped out, grabbed what I saw, and it was a wallet with no identification in it whatsoever. Nothing but money. Hundreds and 50s and 20s and 10s. There was $1,300 in that wallet. And I said, oh boy, if we take this into the office, they're just going to keep it. It's never getting back to whoever it was that lost it. And I said, I'll split it with you. And so I gave him $650. I kept myself $650. There in Myrtle Beach, California. And then I went back to Fort Bragg, 2.5 hours away. It's a short jaunt. We used to make the trip all the time. And all the while, because it was now my money, I can't stand any kid when they tell a happy story about how a kid found $650 in a goddamn paper bag and turns it into the police. Nobody's ever getting that money back. Keep it for yourself, you stupid bastard. You know nobody else is going to take care of you, right? So I kept the money. We went back to Bragg, and I spent all the money. I actually paid a speeding ticket on the way back out of that money too. How fortunate that I found that there's a whole fortune-telling story that goes along with this. It doesn't matter. But look at that. I went and I took all my buddies to the goddamn comedy clubs in Vietnam, North Carolina, as my recruiter called it. And I burned it all up. The thing is, it's about that. It's a hypnotic propensity. Because one of those nights we were in there, and actually I had written on a bar napkin from the owner of the bar, "Shut up or get out." This was a different trip. But this trip, there was some kind of guy. He was a hypnotist. He's like, "I'll take volunteers out of the audience." It's like the Flintstones where you're supposed to cluck like a chicken. And I said, I want to be hypnotized. I was pretty excited about this whole idea. And he called me up on stage. And there, with the money that I found in a parking lot, I found my way on stage. Sometimes it takes a little bit of money to be somebody special. And he made us pick our hands up, and he pushed them down, and he was acting like that was the way he found out whether you were hypnotic or not. And he sent people off stage, and he kept me, and I'm like, all right. I beat the whole thing. I get to be on stage, and I get to be hypnotized. And I stood up there, and I heard what he was telling the other people to do, and I heard what he was telling me to do, and I wasn't supposed to accept the number like 7 or something. 6, 7 doesn't exist, and then 8. That was the thing that I was supposed to be confused about while I'm sitting there and people are laughing at me. Not with me, not about me, at me. And I watched the people around me on stage, and they were so believable. I'm like, holy mackerel, these people are fucking hypnotized. But the whole time he was doing it to me, I was curious about the process, and it didn't work on me. When I got up there and they started talking about the number 7, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I have to act like I'm going along with it. I don't want to make the guy look bad. And I said, 7. I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9. And I said, and he said, you're wrong. And I said, I'm not wrong. And I got really aggressive because I thought that's what the people would want. And then after that, he asked me to step off the stage and go back into the audience. I'm a sleepwalker. I always thought I would be very good at falling prey to hypnosis. But as it turns out, I'm paying too close attention to understand it. to fall in line with it. And I saw something on Vixen News today, and it's the scary believability that we talk about. I speak of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and how I faked it and I was asked off stage. But the believability, a hypnotic propensity, just to have people that believe, because I have started watching Vixen News myself to see what it is they've got to say. I want to be sure that I'm right or wrong. I want to see both sides of it. They're showing the same stuff, but not as much. And they really, really, really try to pick up the side they're on. And I watch it, and I'm like, oh my good golly, I'm afraid I'm believing it. And then I realize, oh, I can't, it's just, it doesn't work that way, because they're showing nothing believable, but they can drop a tear from their eye as they tell the story. And you say, am I getting demented? Am I becoming like that poor guy? Am I believing whatever they tell me? And I realize probably the biggest problem I have is the one that others relish in. It's that they do fall into that state of hypnosis. And I can't, because all the while I'm being hypnotized, I'm asking, how are you doing this? How does this work? How is it you make me believe?